Let's get ready to rumble.
Yes, we're back. It is episode 67 of the Hibs Ramble. Again with you this week. It's just the pair of us. It's me and Shaun. And Tommy is lying on the bed over there. So if you hear any babies crying, he's actually meant to be watching Dancing Vegetables at the moment. So if you hear any crying or any gurgling, it's not me, it's not Shaun. It's 6-month-old Thomas. But less about him. Shaun, how on earth are you, my man?
I thought for a second you were going to not introduce Tommy, but just say if any is hear any petulant children moaning and crying in the background, it's not Craig, it's not Mark. That's where I thought you were going with that. Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Feel sorry for the listeners having to put up with us too, yet again for another
3
week.
times in a week.
Madness. Can I get a better looking pod though, eh? So.
This is it, mate. We're trying our hardest. You, your skincare routine and all that, your lovely cap on and that tonight. Did you enjoy the weekend anyway?
Weekend was good, mate. Yeah, it was good. Cabbage getting I'm going to say a well-earned, but probably a well-fought 1-0 victory. So, yeah. Listen, the following week is always good, and your weekend is always good after Hibs have won, especially when we go into an international break.
This is exactly it, because we don't have them to disappoint us this weekend. But we'll just jump right into it. So, can you hear him?
No, I'm laughing because you say, "Oh, we'll just jump right into it," because you say that every week as well, and I think it's just a routine now for you, so it makes me laugh.
I think it is. I'm going to put his Doddy back in.
You've got to remember, you've got your mic as well, so it doesn't pick up as much as you maybe think it does.
But see if you hear him, then text me.
Okay.
And I'll sort him. Because if you can hear him, then the mic is obviously picking up. Right, okay. Right, we'll just jump right into it, Shaun, eh?
Yes, let's.
So there was a couple of changes from the team that started in Paisley. Eliuan and Rory Whittaker dropped out, and Martin Boyle and Lewis Miller came back into the starting 11. Were you expecting that, or did you think there was going to be more changes?
I'm glad that Campbell kept his place, and I know we'll obviously come on to talk about Josh. I kind of thought Lewis would maybe come into it. I think it would have maybe been a bit too much for Rory to start again at the weekend. And I was kind of glad that Eliuan was dropped. I know he's technically one of, if not the best player in our squad, and is capable of moments of magic, which we've seen in recent weeks at times when he's not been playing that great. But his overall performance for a good few weeks now, maybe even month or two, hasn't necessarily been that great. So maybe it was a wee rest that he needed. But again, with the international break, is there really any point in dropping anyone? I actually thought that with Boyle coming in and Miller coming back in, I actually thought that Campbell would have stayed up top alongside Venti. Although obviously Boyle went through the middle again, which I understand based on how we set up against Aberdeen in the semi-final. But yeah, it was the only annoyance that I had is how we were set up in regards to how we laid out on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, again, another 4-4-2. I didn't actually get in for the offside goals. I've not actually seen it back. But I'll just get your thoughts on it. I mean, it seems like it's every week now we're talking about an offside goal or something else, but I actually didn't see it. I was late coming in because the traffic was brutal. But did you see it? Were you in on time?
I was in early, consumed a horrific steak pie, which, by the way, I just want to go on record and say that I saw the West Stand had some decent looking pies, but in the East they seem to be horrendous.
I didn't have the pie that I had at the week. I've actually got a grievance with the catering staff that we'll touch on when we go to the Premiership, but
not overly happy. I know I've already submitted my rating for this season, but I was not best pleased, and I'm
happy for you to do a rescore.
Well, if I do a rescore, it's going to be a lot less than what my original score was. So you're the officiator on it, so I'll let you decide. However,
Um,
getting back to my point, yes, I was in the door early, and I was there for the offside. It looked cut and dry. I've not seen it back, so I can't tell you how close it was. I'm a firm believer that the naked eye doesn't necessarily lie too much. And he looked clear offside at the time, so I don't really have any grievances with that. But he doesn't need to necessarily play on the line. Would probably be my only issue, because he's still got a little bit of pace. He's still faster than most players, albeit his injury. So I'm all fine with him playing on the edge in regards to the edge of the shoulder of the last defender, but when you've got that pace, maybe hold back a little bit or give yourself that extra yard or two just in case.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we'll just touch on Campbell again. Obviously, he came in again for the second game in a row. He's scored now twice on the bounce. Does it make him kind of undroppable for the Aberdeen game? And I know we touched on it after the St Mirren game. Do we think that there is actually a place for him in Monty's Hibs team after all?
I think there's a space for him in Monty's squad. I don't think he's because of the position and the role that he plays or has played under previous managers. I don't actually think that I don't think he's worthy of a consistent start in the 11, especially against the likes of like a Celtic or a Rangers or a Hearts. I would say
Remember
Aberdeen,
who you're
but
talking to here, Shaun.
I'm aware.
Josh Campbell's biggest fan.
But every time he plays in these bigger games, he seems to step up, and every time he plays against Aberdeen as well, he seems to score based on his record. So I feel like there is a spot for players like that in Monty's squad. Every time he scores last season and this season, the players seem to, I don't want to say more happy for him than other players, but they do seem to be happier and show it a little bit more, both on the pitch when they score and like on social media as well, like when he's putting his post up. So he's clearly well loved within the squad, and he obviously brings a lot to the dressing room. I know sometimes that isn't it. You need to obviously deliver on the pitch. He's delivered on the pitch the last couple of games. I wouldn't go as far as saying undroppable, but he's definitely got attributes within his game that can benefit our side, especially in behind the striker, or as Tommy would say, something else.
Well, he's talking to his dancing vegetables. He's calling dancing vegetables dada, and I don't know if that is an insult or not. Because do I look like a piece of dancing broccoli, Shaun?
You don't look like you eat any broccoli, Liam. So I don't know where he's getting that.
I mean, there's never been a single broccoli in this house apart from dancing on the telly, so I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure what his thought process is behind that. But we'll move on to the Boyle penalty shout. I just seen on Twitter before we came on that Dermot Gallagher thought that he thought it was a penalty, and the others in the Sky studio thought it wasn't a penalty. When I saw it first, when I was at the game, I thought penalty. Saw it back, not convinced. But I thought it was odd that the referee wasn't even told to check it.
Yeah, there was one in recent weeks similar to that. I don't know. I can't remember when it was. I feel like recently he's had another incident like that, as well as the one at the weekend, and that one wasn't given either. So I wasn't like, it takes a lot for me to be baffled by the decision making or lack of decision making by the Scottish officials at the moment, especially in recent weeks. And based on my tweet that I put out at the weekend as well, it certainly rattled a few fan bases that the point that I was trying to make clearly went over certain individuals' heads. However, I didn't think it was a penalty at the time. I don't really feel like, for me, Dermot Gallagher's got any level of trust in what he's saying, because the amount of nonsense he spills sometimes on Monday mornings on Sky Sports. 5 minutes. Yeah, I don't really trust what comes out of his mouth.
Craig despises Dermot Gallagher.
the fact that he said that it is a penalty, cool, great. It just gives us more ammunition as a club to have another grievance with the officials. I've seen them given. I've also seen them not given. Whether it was actually officially checked or not is a different conversation. I could understand why it would be given, but I can understand again why it's not. Depends on how the contacts came about. I know Dermot Gallagher, when he was talking about it, he thought it was a penalty. And then I can't remember, it's Danny Mills then says that it looks like he initiates the contact by going right, but then again he could just be going right to go on his right foot and then hit it.
But then what's the rules on that though? What's the rules? That's what is so frustrating, is that things like that are given in other games. I mean, I don't want to turn into, again, like pure anti-SFA pod like we're seeming to be every week, but I mean, some of the decisions, the other decisions that were made across the league on Saturday and Sunday were equally as baffling. I mean, the biggest one for me, I know that Rangers got kind of a bit of a dubious penalty on Sunday against.
A bit of a dubious penalty?
I mean, it's not a penalty.
No, it's not.
I didn't watch the game, so I don't know if the referee went over to check the screen, or did he just give it?
It was given straight away.
So that's frustrating. And then you look at the Hearts Motherwell game, and that's another incident that I saw a video clip on Twitter. And yeah, he doesn't kick him in the face, and Boyce goes down holding his face, but he's karate kicked him in the chest.
I feel like that makes Boyce's case worse. The fact that he touches his head where he's not been touched. I think that's a penalty. I think that's a Stonewaller. Like he's karate chopped him in his heart.
Is it a case of it wasn't in the box though for that one? Because I know it was quite tight whether it was in the box or not. But then if you look at that back and you go, oh, it's not in the box, you've still got to send the boy off. That's serious foul play.
Serious foul play. Yeah.
And I just don't understand where then what's going on? What is going on in the VAR room that you're not given decisions like that? And I know this is moving away from Boyle's penalty, and I don't really think it was a penalty looking at it back. But it's just now the conversation again about VAR, about what is going on.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think I had I tweeted off the Ramble account with the Jose Mourinho gif, right, saying that if I speak, I'm in trouble. And then I went over to my own account, and then I just saw the replay and the replay and the replay again, and it riled me right up because of obviously like the conversation we had after the semi-final about the Venti, about the Duke, about the Sibbick, about the other Rangers penalty in the semi-final, and then obviously the penalty they got again 24 hours after a penalty that we weren't given, or a week after the one again that we weren't given. Like I said, I put the tweet out moaning about consistency, that one was given and one wasn't. The Venti one has contact. The Rangers one doesn't have contact, but the two of them are very similar and have a lot of similarities. And then, like I said, it rattled two individual fan bases, which I'm sure you can guess who they were. But the point seemed to be going over everyone's heads. Like, I wasn't moaning that necessarily ours wasn't given. I was moaning about the fact that the Rangers one was, when it was less than what ours one was. And I'm just, to get to my point, I have a real issue with the level of consistency within Scottish football at the moment at what is meant to be the highest level, or what is the highest level. And the only thing that is consistent is the fact that the refs are just consistently shite and consistently inconsistent. And that's the real frustration. It doesn't matter who's in the fact that we have VAR. I think it's who's operating the VAR and how they're implementing the rules. I could sit here and read the rule book to you to get back to your point about why the Boyle penalty wasn't given. And it doesn't matter if it ticks all the boxes. The way that the Scottish Refereeing Association, or whatever they want to call themselves, are officiating themselves at the moment, it's not within the parameters of the rule book. And it seems to be
embarrassing, to be honest.
I mean, it seems like one set of rules is different from one instant to another. So that's where we need to get the level of consistency.
And even if it wasn't like Rangers and Celtic who were getting the decisions, and the rest of us weren't, or the rest of us, it was so inconsistent. It's the fact that it is across the whole league. Like, it's happening every week. I was listening to Sports Sound on the way to the game on Saturday, and they had Bobby Madden, and they were going, well, surely these refs that are given decisions are influenced by the crowd, especially when they're given decisions for Celtic and Rangers, because they'll always have a lot more supporters there than all the other clubs anyway. And Bobby Madden was going, well, I don't think so. And I can't remember who it was, if it was Michael Stewart or maybe Tom English or something, and he was going, well, I know that they're professional, and I know that they are,
Which they're
they
not.
act as well as they can, but you can't tell me that 50,000 people trying to get you to make a decision and you're not leaning one way or another. So I don't know. I think there just needs to be a little bit of someone needs to police it better. Someone needs to police the fact that these refs are having stinkers week in, week out. And I mean, don't think the ref had a great game apart from that on Saturday. I mean, that's the second now home game in a row that we've had a stinking referee, and then you can put John Beaton into that semi-final. Don't think the referee on the St Mirren game was that bad, but I mean, that's certainly the last two home games we've had stinkers of refs. So where does it end? Where does the buck stop? Who decides? You know what I mean? I'm off on a tangent about referees here, but I think it needs to be said that this has been, for as long as I can remember, the worst consistently it's been.
Yeah, I think it comes to the point that you said the other week, and the point that we always seem to harp on about, is that they need to be made full time. You like in the quality of league that we are trying to get to, the fact that we have two teams qualifying for the Champions League, and the fact that some of them, like Willie Collum or some of the other top, or what are deemed as top referees in Scotland, are going and refereeing some of these European games.
And like in the World Cup,
how are they not like full time? And I don't know how the funding comes down to it and why they aren't or whatever. But I would have much rather like the money that the clubs put in to VAR, which I've heard figures of 200,000 put in or 300,000 put in by each of the clubs or whatever. Why? Surely the clubs wouldn't mind if that went to making the referees permanent or like full time, sorry, to bring their standard of refereeing up as well, rather than actually having VAR or doing both. You know what I mean?
No, I agree, and that was another point that they made on Sports Sound, was that the clubs have put this much money into VAR. What if they just went, nah? And I don't know if it's a conversation that is going to happen if we're going to have VAR now for the foreseeable, or if they're going to bin it. But it seemed like a really serious conversation that they were having on Sports Sound, that they reckoned that it might not last long.
I think the way that it's going,
And
every
in
time I
England as
listen,
well, it's ruining the game, mate.
I know it's not. Listen, Scotland's not the only country that's having the issues with it, but that doesn't. We can't then use that as an excuse. We can't then sit here and say, "All right, okay, well, we're not the only country having problems, so we need to just kind of go by it." We've had it in the league for over a year. It was brought in halfway through the season, which was a disgrace and as a starting point. But listen, to get back to your point about the refereeing performance at the weekend as well, that was very, very poor. And for me, David Dickinson should just stick to his homes under the hammer, or value in his antiques, or Dickinson's real deal, whatever the
homes
shows
under the
are that
hammer's
he's
deal
got.
in Dublin.
I
think.
I know he gets involved in one, but maybe he should stick to that rather than refereeing, because he's inept as a referee.
No bother, Paul McGinn. Back to the football and what Hibs did well. And what Hibs did do well in the first half was score a half-decent goal, I thought. A really nice solo run, bursting through the middle from Martin Boyle. Looked like he'd kind of let it get away from him a little bit before he passed it off to Josh Campbell. And a good finish from Campbell. I think the goalie will be disappointed that he didn't do a little bit better, but Campbell still got to score it, and he did. Made it 2-2. Obviously scored against St Mirren. And I said at the time, death taxis and Josh Campbell scoring for Hibs.
Scores important goals.
He does
Scores
score
important goals for us. Comes back to his key attributes that we spoke about earlier on, or touched on earlier on. I think it's one of those goals where he's just tried to get it on target and hope for the best. And luckily enough, it's in that little area where the goalkeeper's like half already dived, and it kind of goes underneath him. 5 or 6 inches either side of that, it probably deflects off the goalkeeper and is saved. So a wee bit lucky with the goal, but nonetheless, it hit the back of the net. And Kelly started the game well. I felt the first 10 minutes they tried to press us up high, tried to prevent us from playing out the best we could, and put us under a lot of pressure. But I felt like as the first half went on and on, the less Kilmarnock had an impact in the game. And I felt that like the longer that we continued to play the way that we wanted to play, as an out from the back, and ask Kelly the question of, right, okay, come on to us, come and press us then. We tired them out as the half went on. Obviously, we got the goal, and then as the first half went on, I just feel like we grew more and more into the first half. I think if I was to compare the first and the second half, I actually would think that we had a better first half performance in regards to what Monty wants to do, rather than the second half performance, which was all backs against the wall and defending, where we never really seemed to get out. But yeah, the second half performance wasn't the greatest. But the first half, like I said, we managed to get the goal, hang on, and we grew into the game, and we asked Kelly to come on to us and apply pressure, and they tried and just got tired as the game went on.
Yeah, I think I'm echoing exactly what you said. I do think we played all right first half. Obviously, get the goal. I mean, going in at half time 1-0, you're chuffed, really. I mean, even if it's not the most pretty football, not the best football to watch, if you're going in at half time 1-0, you're obviously doing something right, and that's the main thing. Second half, like you said, not an awful lot happened in terms of Hibs' chances. I feel like we did limit Kelly. We did limit them. They only had one shot on target, I think, and it was right at the end. But I felt also that we remained pretty solid and disciplined with the way that Monty clearly wants to play, playing out from the back. And I think it was another pretty good defensive performance as well. The fact, I mean, people are saying, "Oh, Kelly battered Hibs, Kelly battered." I don't think they really did, to be honest. I think they had more of the ball. They had a lot of the ball in our half, but they by no means battered us.
No,
I mean, I didn't think at any point in the second half that Kelly were going to score.
No, I mean, at the end of the first half, all the stats, positive stats anyway, were in our favour. The second half performance did and didn't fill me with confidence. And what I mean by that is it didn't fill me with too much confidence in regards to how much we struggled to get out of our own half and attack forward. But it was good that Nick Montgomery came out and alluded to the fact that 3 or 4 of the boys were struggling through illness. So it appears that over the last kind of week and a half, 2 weeks, we've had a wee bit of a bug in the camp, and maybe that's obviously affected fatigue. And but yeah, the bit that did fill me with confidence was obviously the way that we defended. And like you said, limited Kilmarnock to very, very little. Like I said, we struggled to get out the half most of the second half, especially the last 20-25 minutes. It was a real tough watch. But it was a lively performance that Diego Simeone would have definitely be proud of, because the way that we defended in the second half, like you said already, limited Kilmarnock to pretty much nothing. But the fact that we continually tried to play out for the back, and Hibs fans just aren't used to that, it was quite difficult for some people to watch.
So one of the standouts for Hibs, sorry, the one of the moments for Hibs in the second half, Shaun, was the fact that we had another penalty shout that wasn't given and wasn't checked by VAR. And I promise isn't going to turn into a big long tangent again, but was it a penalty for you, the Joe Newell one?
Without VAR, I would say it would have been given 2-3 years ago or whatever. Similar to my point that I mentioned about the Boyle penalty shout in the first half, I'm now not surprised about whether things are or are not given, regardless of how they look. When I saw it, I didn't really think it was a penalty at the time, based on what has happened in recent weeks. Watching it back, the more I watch it, the more I think, yeah, like we could have been in with a shout and it probably could have been given. But again, see what I said about the Boyle one in the first half. Like it could have easily been given and easily wasn't given.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same. I didn't think it was a penalty at the time, but yeah, I think maybe looking back on it, you've seen them given. I think it's just one of those ones. I think even without VAR, it's half of refs give it, half of refs don't. And I'm not going to touch on consistency again because we'll be here all night. And we've got listener questions in that to preview. But before we get to the listener questions, you didn't see it, you were already away, but Lewis Miller at full time, giving it big licks to Joe Wright. I love stuff like that, eh? I absolutely love stuff like that. And I've got so much time for it. Are you gutted that you didn't see it?
Yeah, I think you probably would have had the best viewing
I
house for
had
it
prime
as
real
well.
estate for seeing it because it was right down in front of me.
Yeah, I think I know he's not been away too long a time, but like since Poch's left, like we've missed someone
We've
with a
missed
wee
a
bit of
shit house,
character
eh?
about them. I know Boyle has shades of it at times, like when we're winning or when things are going in our favour and stuff. But Boyle's a lot more serious on the pitch than he is when he's off it. Whereas I feel like Lewis Miller can, at a flip of the switch, just do either or. He can either lose his head or he can either wind someone else up. Like he's just a wind up merchant, which is great, and I'm all for it. So yeah, love to see it. Love to see more of it. As long as he doesn't get himself in bother.
Absolutely. And just before we jump on to the listener questions, we will talk about your pre-match pie, Shaun.
Which pie is the best in the pie review? Which pie is the best in the pie review?
Don't know if I want to, if I'm honest, because then I might end up ranting, and I feel like the score that I put in the chat at the weekend is
No,
being generous.
I'm gonna make an executive decision and say that you can't rescore
Cannot.
because I didn't rescore any of mine last season. I don't think it would be fair to then be able to rescore
And
Hibs
that's
and
fine
not
because
other
I think
ones.
I don't think I know for a fact that it does Hibs a favour by not rescoring it, because I scored it as a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and easily two of those columns could have been a 0 if you would have allowed it. So yeah, it was not great whatsoever, and the less time we speak about it, the better, if I'm honest. All I want to say is that the catering, not necessarily the catering staff, but the options at Easter Road Stadium and the quality of the options at Easter Road Stadium must improve and must improve fast, especially in the East anyway, in the East.
Yeah. Well, I went down. I've got a gripe with Hibs catering after the weekend. I went down. I think it was maybe about 15 minutes into the first half, and I wanted the haggis fries because I've had them before and they're quite good. So I went, oh, can I have the haggis fries and a bovril? So the lassie took my order and was like, aye, no worries. Gave me the bovril and then she was like, all right, see you later. I went, am I not getting my chips? And she was like, oh, yeah, sorry. So went away. She was away for about 5 minutes looking for these chips and someone else came and was like, oh, it'll be 7 minutes wait on the fries. And I went, I mean, there's nothing you can really do about that. I mean, they just need to cook me our chips. It's fine. And I was like, well, I'm not standing down here for 7 minutes. And they went, all right,
Give me one of those buzzers you get at the market, and I'll come back once it's ready.
I was like, I'm not waiting down here for 7 minutes. And I was like, actually, just give me. I went, give me a steak pie instead. I'll have that. And I went, actually, no. The chips were like £5.50. Give me 2 steak pies. So they gave me 2 steak pies, and both of them were rancid. I gave one to my dad. Not rancid, but I mean, not great. Too much pastry, not enough filling. The pies at Hibs, not good. Not good. So I think they kind of need to buck up their ideas, and that is my gripe really with the catering stuff. But listen, we'll leave it at that, and we'll have a clean slate for the Aberdeen game. Hopefully they'll have redeemed themselves by then, Shaun.
I won't be holding my breath.
Which pie is the best in the pie review? Which pie is the best in the pie review?
Okay, so we will move on now to the listener questions.
Now it's time to answer the Hibs Ramble listener questions.
First things first, Shaun. As always, John is saying couldn't care less about the performance. All that mattered was the 3 points. And what is for dinner?
I actually had a pre-dinner, pre-pod dinner, and I'm having a post-pod dinner. Because our HelloFresh delivery was later than expected this evening. So pre-match, just a little starter, a wee filler upper. I had a chicken and chorizo pie.
Oh,
It was good.
like
good.
a handheld or a
It
larger?
was like that size.
You get it for the bakers or the shops?
Size. No, I got it from Lidl actually. Not
Really?
Aldi. Got it from Lidl.
There's a Lidl up the road
Yeah.
from you. Maybe would you recommend it?
I would, not on its own, obviously with sides, but because it was a pre-pod dinner.
Yeah, not bad
It
for
was
like a
just-
lunch or something.
It was all right. It was all right. It was good.
I'll have a wee look the next time.
Won't
I'm
get
in
into the
Lidl.
details of it, but yeah, for actual dinner, I'm having a truffle burger with chips and
Oh,
I can't remember what the side salad is, but yeah, truffle burger. Can't
that
wait.
sounds awesome. That sounds brilliant. And it puts my chicken chow mein that I'm having to shame. Next up, John Tolmie is saying, why is Jair Tavares so good? And that is someone that we've not really spoken about so far on the podcast, and I actually feel quite bad because I love Jair.
He's improving week on week, so fair play to him. Listen, I still stand by the fact I feel like at this moment in time we should have a better level of quality player in our squad, but with the squad that we have at the moment and with the players that we have available at the moment and the amount of games that we've had recently, he has done a lot better than other players that have been on the pitch.
Yeah.
So he's
sure.
deserved the game time in recent weeks, and it's good to see that Nick has given more than enough opportunity to more than just him, but to all the players within the squad.
Exactly. Billy's asking, what position should be our number one priority in January?
I'm going to say, I want to say a goalkeeper, but it won't be because Wallacott, and we paid money for Wallacott. So I'll go centre half. I feel like, especially in recent weeks, defensively, at times, we've been all over the shop, and whether that's partly to do with the system and what Monty's asking of them, or maybe it's part of to do with the personnel not being able to take on the instructions. I just feel like defensively, whether that be a 6 or whether that be a 4 or a 5, I don't know, but I just feel like we need to recruit defensively.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be past us signing a number 10 to be that link.
But then does a 10 play in Monty's style?
Well, if he's playing the 4-4-1-1, then it would. It just depends who the player is, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think a centre half, we kind of need a little bit more cover at centre half as well, don't we? Jeff Ashton is asking, deserved it after all the good performances recently, which this wasn't, but we did enough. No failures, and the defence was outstanding. I think the defence played really very well. Like we said, limited Kilmarnock to very, very little. And yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it on karma, we probably did deserve it over the last few weeks' performances. So it's good to get that win over the line, I think.
Agreed.
Gav Dick is saying, didn't catch the game today, but is it just me that hates when we shoot into the famous 5 stand in the first half? I hate it as well because it makes me want to get up and leave at half time.
Yeah, it threw me off. It's just a psychological thing by Derek McInnes. Who knows? But yeah, it's
Obviously, didn't
tradition.
work very well.
No,
Del
it's
boy.
tradition. The way that we
Try
shoot.
again next time.
So
Paul Mackay is asking the referee, why does it seem we get him? It's all about him, and it seems to never be in total. Seems to never be in total control of the game. Also, Lewis Miller getting booked after the game. Any clues? I mean, Lewis Miller for giving it the big 1-0 to Joe Wright. I thought it was hilarious. But yeah, again, touching on the points that we've made earlier about referees and how they are absolute shit. Next up is Harvey Scott, and he's asking, how's everyone doing?
doing well.
What a nice
Doing
question to
well.
ask, eh?
Doing well. I hope they're doing well as well.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right, Harvey. Thanks for asking, mate. Kevin Swan is saying, worst performance in a while brings 3 points. Football, eh? Fans could do with chilling out at times, though. Half the stadium shouting for Marshall to play a quick ball wide left to Campbell, who had 3 players on him. I did feel like there was a bit of frustration within the crowd on Saturday, but I think it just comes with, obviously Marshall wasn't playing out as quick as we'd like, but hang on, so it's a difficult one, really, Shaun, eh? But you want your players to be playing the best they can, but if we're getting what we said when we sacked Lee Johnson was we need to get someone in who will win at all costs, and that was a win at all costs, and the cost was a pretty performance, a good looking performance, which that wasn't. So listen, you just need to kind of take the rough with the smooth, innit?
Yeah, we're also continually sticking by the options that we have available, and we're sticking by Monty's methodology in regards to how he wants to play. So whether that's sometimes playing it to the left or right centre half and then popping it out to the right winger or the left winger or the fullbacks or whatever, these little passages he play or phases he play, whatever you want to call them, are what we're working on week in, week out. Unfortunately, at times, some players aren't always switched on in regards to the next ball or the next phase of play, and that's kind of where it breaks down. And what I mean by that is when it goes into Rocky and then maybe into midfield, similar to like the Jago slip against Celtic when we were trying to play out. These mistakes are going to happen. You mentioned on the Celtic pod that we didn't get punished by the best team in the league, and Kilmarnock also did not punish us. So it would be easy to sit here and say someone is going to punish us for that if we don't get better at it. We literally done it against the best team in the league and we're not punished. So
they've got to be growing in confidence, surely.
Correct. That's exactly what I was just about to say. The more and more we do it, and the more time on the training field, the better the players will get at it, because the longer they'll be doing it for, and the more they'll be learning from it as well. And the fact that it is working as well, a lot of our positive passages of play and our positive transitions from front to back and our positive chances over the last 3 or 4 games have all came from playing out from the back.
Yeah, no, they really have, and you always put that in the chat as well. When we have a nice chance or a nice move, you're always putting the love heart eyes emoji in the chat. So that's when you know that Hibs are doing well. When
to
Shaun
be fair
is
though,
happy
that was just coincidence after what Mark said, and then we had directly after Mark putting that in the chat, we had a chance that we played out for the back.
Mark is very fickle. You know this, Shaun. You know this.
I know.
But that actually leads on really
why I
nicely
like
to the next question. Roddy Scott is asking 3 points at last, but that was a hard watch. I know they're told to play it out from the back, but fuck me, it's an accident waiting to happen. I mean, we'll probably will lose a goal from it at some point, but it looks to me as if they are growing in confidence with it, Shaun, and kind of like what you said. I think that, I mean, they're doing all right. I mean, with the fact that Monty's coming and giving us this new style of play, and was very, very different to what Lee Johnson was expecting the players to do. It's actually a miracle that we've not shot ourselves in the foot.
And what Monty's asking us to do is getting not the best out of some individuals, but it's getting a better level of performance out of some individuals that Lee Johnson ever did.
Yeah.
I think we need to remember that as well.
Nice one. And that wraps us up for Twitter, but we'll move on to Instagram. Again, you can get us on Instagram with the same handle as we are on Twitter at the Hibs Ramble. Nige has popped up on Instagram and said, I love the questions from Nige because they're always really long and in-depth, and I feel like he's got a really good grasp on he's kind of got the same sort of ideas as us. He says, first half we struggled to get into the game, tried to play out from the back, but fair play to Kelly, they pressed well and looked the more likely to score. Too many slack passes and lack of options. We didn't offer much other than Boyle's offside goal. Second half better, but felt we didn't play with enough urgency. Boyle did well to stay on his feet for the pass to Campbell, and he finished it well. Not pretty, but in the end we got the job done. I'll be honest though, I thought we were looking like we might throw it away as Kelly pushed forward, but fair play to the lads. Positives, Campbell has had a couple of decent games and Jair seems to have a bit more confidence. Negatives, Venti and Boyle seem to be going through a bit of a cold streak. 3 points in the bag though, and a happier drive back home to Newcastle for me. Enjoy your weekend. I feel like he's got great points there.
The only stuff to really reiterate is the Boyle and Venti stuff. I think at the moment, like Boyle's had a penalty shout turned down, which he would have took. Penalty shout in the second half of Joe Newell turned down. That could have been another Boyle goal. Boyle's offside goal against Aberdeen. So very, very fine margins. I think Boyle is slowly getting back to kind of the level of performance that we're maybe used to, but I think he's also trying to adjust to the new system and the new shape.
And coming back from the injury as well.
With being the final attacker on the final man as well, which he's not traditionally used to either. And Venti's obviously adapting his play and playing a lot deeper at the moment, which comes back to the point that
I don't know if I'm a big fan of that, to be honest.
Nah, I would rather he was the one on the last man with Boyle and Ewan further up
behind.
Aye, but again, that only works with those two being wide, and then we're sacrificing the shape for what we're trying to get out of the players. So listen, I trust Monty.
Monty's not going to do that.
No, wee tweaks I would like to see.
Yeah. And finally, just before we move on to a quick fantasy football update, Rudy Mulvey's got in touch on Instagram and is asking, after the semi-final, when I was talking about our lack of squad depth, I complained that we'd bring on Josh Bloody Campbell to save us. He's proved me wrong, and for now, and long may it continue. Also, has Shaun got a cousin called Jack who's a chemistry teacher? They sound so alike.
I do not, that I'm aware of.
That you're aware of?
That I'm aware of. I would like to meet this person if we sound alike or have any similarities in any way.
Well, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't like to meet them if they're anything like you, Shaun. I'm sorry that was nasty, I didn't mean it. Okay, quickly, just to wrap us up, are you ignoring the rest of Rudy's point because they slightly criticised Josh Campbell and he's your favourite player of all time? Yes.
Okay.
Just to quickly move on, we are going to have a little chat about fantasy football update. So after game week 13, it remains the same at the top two. We've got McGinn, Antonic, and What's the Story, Ross McCrory. And the rest of the top five is made up of Sunny 11, ahead of the Netto, which I don't think they've been in the top five this season. And rounding off the top five is the Fife Jets by Billy Sterling. So that's not too bad, actually. I mean, Hibs for Europe dropping out. I Carumba Umba Chumba FC dropping out of the top five. Very, very, very surprising. And Shaun, only need to scroll down a little bit because you are 15th.
I am. I actually thought I had a very good weekend after the slating that you and Craig gave me. I've tried to actually stay on top of it now because of how high up I got. And I thought I had a really good weekend, but others had better.
Yeah, well, I'm 61st, so you had a better one for me. And that'll wrap us up. Thanks very much for joining me, Shaun. It's been a pleasure again. We will not be back next week, sorry, because it's the international break. We are going to have a little break ourselves, and we'll be back after the Aberdeen game. So have a good week. Enjoy the Scotland games, and we will catch you on the Flippity Flip. See you later.
Bye.
Let's get ready to rumble.